Hey everybody, Kofuku's back for probably one of the last times because of the YouTube policy changes. We'll get right into it today, talking about financial success and how to make do with smaller amounts of money and still pay your bills on time. Now, a big problem if you're finding yourself constantly out of money is real life microtransactions. There's been a lot of stuff in the news about microtransactions in the gaming community and how they damage games. But today we're going to be focusing on those real life microtransactions, the small little ones you don't even think about, like buying a pop on your lunch break at work or buying a candy bar from the impulse lane at the grocery store. Now you may be thinking, these are a couple of bucks here and there, what does it matter? If you did this once a day, at the end of the month, you could have spent $30 to $60 depending on what things you bought and how much they cost. And this is money you've lost and spent without even thinking about it. And if you spend more, you could easily have lost over $100 to random small transactions that you didn't think anything about because it was only a dollar or two at the time. This is where people get tripped up. Suddenly they're a few dollars short for a bill that actually matters or a new expense that came up. And as you go deeper and deeper into adult life and responsibilities, these sudden expenses are going to happen. These out of budget things are going to happen more and more frequently. And you have to be prepared for that. And you're like, well, I can't save money. But you can. Real life microtransactions, those small transactions, do less of them. I'm not saying you can't ever treat yourself to something, but if you have a larger goal in mind, skip some of those. Try to cut those in half and put those extra few dollars at the end of the month into a savings account. And I know this isn't true for everyone. People aren't poor because they buy a pop every day. People aren't poor because they buy McDonald's a couple of times a week on lunch. But people who should be making a living and aren't, this is who I'm talking to. Since I was 18, I was making $600 a month, and I was having to live off of that and make that work. Now, I didn't do this alone, and I didn't live by myself, but I paid important bills. I had a car on loan, and I was saving up to get this house that I'm currently in. A perfect example of you should have money for a comfortable living, and you don't. A friend of mine who will remain nameless makes over $15 an hour. He was living in the basement of my house for $300 a month. He'd constantly be under $100 in his account, as low as like $10, $15, and he'd have little bills bouncing here and there, little subscription services. He kept wanting more than he could afford. And it's because of those little microtransactions. You don't think it matters to spend a couple of dollars, $5, $10. Maybe you'll throw $20 at something because you see that you have $400 in your account. Well, I can tell you as a homeowner, as an adult, that you can go from $800 in your account to 100 in the matter of a day depending on when your bills come out. You can't open up an account statement and say, oh, I've got X amount of dollars, so that means I can spend something. You gotta know at all times what's coming out of your account. You can't just look at your balance and not think about what else is coming out. When are you getting paid again? Is this a smart move, even if I do have the money for it, in case something happens? That's the question you've got to ask yourself for any little transaction, even if it's $20, even if it's $10, even if it's $5, even if it's a dollar. You have to ask yourself, do you really need it? And is it going to potentially hamper an important bill that you might have later that month. You have to ask yourself all these questions because the bank won't care if you overdrafted $400 or 4 cents. They'll charge you the same fee, which is only going to put you further behind. The next big example I want to talk about for getting you financially healthy are rent-to-own places like Aaron's. They're not your friends. They're not helping you. They are one of the few legal subprime lenders. And this goes back to that microtransaction thing where you think, oh, I can afford to throw $10 a week at something to have something nice. Well, for one, besides the fact that you're going to be paying over double what that item is worth by the end of your payment period, they're also not very nice. The things you get from Aaron's are things that other people rented for probably a year, and then they couldn't pay for it, and then it ended up back in the shop. That's what happens. They want people to pay for it for a while, then it ends up back, and then they just resell it again full price. This is also something that that same friend I mentioned earlier is guilty of. This instant gratification thing. Let's say you're renting to own a PS4. Well, when you first started paying for it, a PS4 was $400. So $12 every couple of weeks over the course of 2 years. Well, that's going to be $800 at the end of it. Not to mention, by the time you were 6 months into it, the price of a brand new PS4 dropped to $200. Now you've already spent over $200, but you still got 3/4 of your payments to go for something that is an old, previously rented out system, that it is now your problem that's going to be old and tired, and you don't know how well it was taken care of to begin with. So you're now left with $600 owed on something that cost $200. So what do you do at this point? Do you cut your losses, give the thing back, stop paying on it? Well, you're already $200 into the hole now, but the answer is yes. You just give the thing back, buy yourself a brand new one. And an additional quick note here, at this point, to do that, you have spent $400, which was the original purchase price, had you just saved up and spent it to begin with. This is the trap you get into. You get a bunch of loans that were just little microtransactions out, and now your entire paycheck is gone into these, and you don't have any money left. And you feel like you're stuck in a rut, and you're making enough to have that good living. But for some reason, it's just not there. This is the reason. Everyday microtransactions. This is the stuff that puts people making a middle-class living into a poverty line existence. So try not to get trapped in it. Kofuku out. Maybe see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.